Hi everyone, thanks so much for tuning in. I'm Hans Pearson, CEO of the Store Local Group.
And I'm Mark Gregg, I'm the National Head of Revenue for Store Local.
In light of recent events, we thought we'd get some experts from all around the globe to share their experiences and give us something to take away and apply it into our businesses over the coming days and weeks.
We're really excited, so let's get into it.
Okay, so today on the StoreCast, delighted to have Ben Cohn, who is co-founder and CEO of Taxiboxs, Australia's leading mobile storage business, which Ben founded some years ago and has really quite passionately grown some space in the Australian self-storage market with some really strong branding and energy in this space. And it's been really good to get to know Ben personally over the last year. Full disclosure, we did a commercial transaction together in 2019. So from my end, it's been really good to understand the Taxibox business a little better. Store Local's not in the mobile storage business, but the guys have certainly got a presence here in the Australian market, which is fantastic. So discussion today with Ben is really just to, as with our previous episodes, understand from Ben how he's found the last 2 or 3 months and get some learnings from Ben for the benefit of people that are watching and listening in various markets around the world. So happy Monday to Ben. How are you going?
Good, Hans. Thank you so much for the lovely introduction.
Excellent.
And yeah, so the position of us being the leading mobile storage company in Australia, we sure like to think so, and hopefully that is the case, but yeah, not exactly sure where it sits, the whole thing.
Okay.
But yeah, so is the plan, Hans, would you like a bit of an introduction about Taxiboxs and what it is that we do?
Yeah,
as a starting point?
Sure. Why don't you describe Taxiboxs, quickly go through the journey and what you guys do and the scope of your business so that people watching, listening, get a bit of a context of the business.
Sure. So Taxiboxs is, as Hans said, a mobile self-storage company. We operate across the 3 major metropolitan regions in Australia. So that's Melbourne, Sydney and Brisbane. Probably the majority of our work, so around 80% or 75% of the business is mobile self-storage, which is a storage unit getting delivered to a customer's front door. They fill it up, lock it, and then we return them back to a storage facility. About 15% of the business, which is actually a fast growing part of the business, is on-site storage units. So we're dropping units at customers' front doors, they fill them up and leave them on site as a shed. We've got our interstate moving services, so that's delivering between the 3 cities, the Taxiboxs. And then we've recently ventured off into mobile call rooms, which we've had some pretty good success with up until the COVID pandemic. In terms of the scale of the business, so like I said, we operate in 3 major cities. We'll continue our expansion as time goes on, but 6 sites. Occupy over 20,000 square meters of space and have around 45 team members nationally, and all remains company owned. So we don't see the franchise model as a viable opportunity in the space in Australia.
Great, fantastic. And Ben, can you just share with us how Taxiboxs has managed its way through what's been a pretty interesting 2020?
Yeah.
Some highlights, some lowlights. How's trading been? Just give us a bit of a rundown of how you found the last few months.
Sure. I'll start with the highlight. The highlight is the announcements being made, I think middle of March, that there's going to be a lockdown taking place, and us frantically running to reduce our team size in order to deal with the lack of demand. Only to find the next 4 weeks being probably the busiest 4 weeks we've ever had in the business. And so we'd experienced a massive surge in inquiries related to COVID for a host of reasons. And so March was kind of gangbusters for us, to be honest. And then I kept on waiting for the drop to take place. I think when the property market was switched off with open for inspections and options, that's when we really knew that would have an impact on us. And so we definitely have experienced a slowdown between April and May, pretty materially, to be honest. So from that perspective, the high was the lovely surprise that it would be really busy. And then the low, I guess, being that it's been a bit quieter. That being said, tangibly, how much of a low is it? We're doing much better, I guess, than most companies would be doing currently in the Australian economy. And, I think the low is probably more of a personal thing in that it's just kind of hard to see a lot of businesses in this position, even the local cafes, but that's a totally different sort of kettle of fish with what's going on around us.
Yeah, it's amazing times, no doubt. Ben, any key challenges just to sort of get to the real sort of guts of it in terms of, so any issues with delivering taxi boxes to people's footpaths, or how have you managed the distancing side of things? And some of the practical things that you've managed on a day-to-day basis would be good to know.
So we kind of we're pretty proactive in following the main guidelines that were set out, and we tried to push as hard as we could in terms of really distancing ourselves from our customers. I think we're in a unique position in that our business allows us to continue to operate without much contact with our customers. So we always have used a lot of technology, so we never really have a paper trail in our business. And so we're able to drop taxi boxes at customers' front doors without actually meeting the customer, greeting the customer. And obviously we introduced a variety of measures. So we had 3/4 of our head office working remotely. We still have a few staff members in the office working. We also have given away bottles of sanitizer to each of our customers as a surprise. So waiting for them in the taxi boxes was a little small branded bottle of a Taxibox sanitizer that we created to kind of help out in the process. So that goes towards a lot of the marketing initiatives that we run. So I'm just trying to think about other things that we kind of did around this period.
Well, just to help you out, another question, I guess, is were there any differences in the sort of customers that were reaching out to you? Did any different trends from residential to business, or anything that stood out?
Yeah, the reasons for storage obviously changed pretty dramatically. The early days were people that had lost all their Airbnb bookings and had decided to retrofit their Airbnb short-term rental as a normal rental, and so they just wanted to put all their stuff in storage so they could rent it out. Lots of early on interstate customers moving, leaving the city because they'd lost their job and they went to moving back with their parents, or they went to the country to work on a farm or something. We've helped out. I think it's called Newmarch, the old aged care centre in New South Wales. And so that was a whole new category for us. I mean, they had, I think, 15 or 20 taxi boxes over in the yard there, which they still actually currently do, storing PPE. And so we did a lot of donation stuff as well, separate to that, where we helped out some of the hospitals. We donated taxi boxes to store excess goods. So there was a bit of donation stuff that was taking place, and which we actually loved. And it's amazing how positive it's sort of the experience has been for us and the team. And then now we've started seeing that sort of increase in offices that are starting to downsize out of their buildings and needing to store some of their furniture, which we're kind of waiting for. We haven't seen a lot of it come through, and that's starting to trickle through now. So there's definitely an increase in an emergent trend there that we've noticed. But it's changed rapidly. And so similar to what's happened around us, I mean, we've kind of had very different reasons for storage that, 2 months ago are very different to what we're experiencing today. And I wish I had some really fantastic learnings out of this in terms of where the market's going to be in the future, but it's I guess hard to tell. And I do believe that there's been more short bursts of demand that have taken place. And so as a longer term trend, I think it's very hard for us to kind of see where it's headed from the perspective of storage inquiries. I think the office space is one that will continue on and trickle through as time goes on. Airbnbs will rise up again, and people will come to Australia to rent them, and people will move back to their home cities once the jobs are reestablished, and they can afford to rent again.
I think the main thing for you guys is that people are moving, right? Or they've got change going on, whether that's offices shrinking or people relocating. As long as there's movement and change, then then there's a need for Taxibox.
Yeah.
Because your model's a little different in terms of the length of stay. Am I right? So do people tend to use Taxibox for shorter stays, or do you find that they're also there for quite some time?
Oh, I think if you were to compare us to the general self-storage market, you'd find that there is definitely it definitely trends towards a shorter stay. But that's also largely dominated by, well, and the reason, I think the reasons for that is the ease of the product and the use of the product, in that there's less barriers to basically getting your storage organized. And as well as that, I think we've opened up other categories to the market which weren't there in the first place. So decluttering before a sale campaign is a very popular use for a Taxibox, which may not have been so readily used for traditional storage. But I think on average, well, so that's the general premise. But I mean, on average for us, and this is the beautiful thing in storage that most operators would know, the longer you've got a facility running, your average length of storage continues to grow, because you always have those customers that stay there forever and a day. And so kind of at our peak, our longest running facility in Melbourne, we'd have average length of storage is about 1.5 years for customers that are currently in storage. And people that have used us but have since checked out, I think the average length of storage for that is around 5 to 6 months. And yeah, I think you would find that's probably slightly less than the traditional storage industry for length of stay. Yeah.
Yeah, fascinating. So I guess with so much change going on at the moment, and I agree, it's hard to take some long-term trends out of what's such an incredibly seesawing economic and health environment.
The roller coaster, COVID roller coaster.
That's it.
Yeah.
So without knowing what those trends are, but what we do know is that there's a lot of change going on, right? And typically over history tells us that when there's a major shock like this, migration occurs and people move, people change their life. So for you guys, so long as there's movement and change, however that change might land, don't know, but as long as there's change, maybe that's a good sign.
We'll have to wait and see. I think at the moment, you raised the comment on moving, but moving generally is really ground to a halt in terms of general, living between properties and rentals and sales. And so the removalist industry is one that would be experiencing a lot of pain, I think, at the moment. And they also don't have the recurring revenue, which makes it a bit harder for them to manage that. Whereas I think we've been a bit luckier with that. But yeah. Yes, you're right. The movement does help. At the moment, some areas are moving and some are really, really quiet. So the more traditional parts of our business are definitely quiet at the moment.
Understood.
Yeah.
And have you seen, so in the Australian market, so over the StoreCast episodes, we've interviewed people in the UK, in Asia, in the US, and you just see this different evolution of the shutdown and now happily the reopening, which even with different phases within the Australian market. It's not even uniform within the Australian market. So different things everywhere. But certainly in the Australian market, there's a sense of we've managed the health side of things well. There's some optimism around the economics, at least the opportunity to get moving and get businesses trading. Have you seen any change in inquiry? So you had a strong first month of this particular situation, a bit quiet. Have you seen any change in inquiry, or is that still not emerging as yet?
No, it's kind of choppy. We've had some real bursts of optimism, green shoots that have come through. The Sydney market is particularly strong for us at the moment. Melbourne's been pretty average, and Brisbane's probably been the least performing of the three markets currently during this crisis. So I'm not exactly, I think it's too early for us to call where the trend is. I mean, I feel anecdotally that with things loosening up, it's going to only get better. But so far, we haven't really seen strong indicators of this come through. Been fairly choppy. Yeah.
And well, the Queensland Premier is holding things back significantly. So maybe we're seeing that straight away, lack of movement in Brisbane and lack of movement in Queensland, because we've got a Premier that just doesn't really want to get things moving at this stage. But anyway, I digress.
Yeah, I was about to say you should try Victoria. pretty tight here as well.
Ben, a recurring theme as we've spoken to people in different markets has been the way that they've looked after their staff and just being really conscious of the health and well-being, both physically and mentally, of their staff. Any lessons, any activities that you guys have undertaken that you're happy to share with us?
Yeah. Yes, I do. Got some of our internal fun Taxibox stuff that we do. So the fun things is we've got a sort of head office with around 20 people. And so we've got the vast majority of the team working remotely. So for us, Slack has been incredibly effective in creating a bit of or maintaining the culture. And so there's a feature on Slack which is called tacos, where you basically hand out goodwill sort of tacos to someone if they're performing well for the day, or if you feel that they've done something that deserves the taco. And so we've then aligned those tacos to actually giving away various gifts to our team members. So if you get 50 tacos, you get your $25 or $50 Uber Eats voucher. If you get 100 tacos, you can order a branded memorabilia coaster for the office, and we'll brand it for you in really creative ways. So we've kind of gamified the whole process. We've got weekly challenges for the team. So we run sort of a weekly Zoom call with the entire team, and we run weekly challenges where people win various prizes. We've found what was quite effective is, and this is again just for the fun that we like to have, we found ways to, and I won't reveal the secret sauce, but we found ways to get, I'll say, B-grade celebrities to join our Zoom calls as a surprise halfway through the call, and raise a Taxibox comment throughout it. And we had Dolph Lundgren. Now, some people are going to know who Dolph Lundgren is, some are not, right? Like Dolph Lundgren is like an iconic Rocky V actor, right? Massive. And yes. I guess I'm showing my age because out of the team, I think maybe 3 people out of the 20 knew who he was. So I was shocked beyond words. Anyway. Yeah.
He's A grade, not B grade.
Well, probably shouldn't say he was A grade. And we've had Lindsay Lohan join. I mean, people knew her, but So we've had a bit of fun with that process. I mean, I kind of digress, but I think from a staff perspective, we've always tried to treat our team in a sort of fairly human way, and the same as we've always treated our customers in a fairly human way. And I think we've been reasonable. So people are working remotely. That's fine. The drivers, we never didn't force the drivers to do anything they didn't want to do. And so any driver that felt discomfort with doing any of the work had the option to not drive if they wanted to. It was really optional for them. And yeah, I think actually, Hans, I think you asked the question before about customers, but obviously we were speaking about staff, but from the customer perspective, we made a decision fairly early on to be fairly proactive. So we introduced things that I think are probably quite unique in the storage space currently, in that we actually offered deferrals for payments for customers that were struggling. And we introduced sort of 4 to 5 measures to assist our customers that were in storage that were struggling to pay. And that I'm actually quite proud of, in that it was quite effective. It was quite choppy at the start because we had some real complaints from customers expecting that we should give them 3 months of storage. But as we all know, once you go down that path, you're in a bit of trouble longer term with that customer. So we had to be quite creative in the way we actually set up support for the existing customers. And our past dues have remained incredibly reasonable, and I'm shocked, because I would have thought that the past due customers would have skyrocketed during this period, but it hasn't really been the case. Which is surprising.
Yeah, it's a common experience, I've got to say, and I certainly at Store Local, our past dues have actually fallen, which is fantastic. We offered a significant discount to existing customers for the first time, try and get ahead of what we thought would be a key risk of bad debts. So whether it was the discounting or whether a common experience we've had is that people just see that storage is valuable and they keep their payments up. I don't know, but certainly I agree. The discounting that we undertook was received by customers as a real show of good faith, and people remember how you treat them through periods like this. So if it's received that way, then fantastic, and if it has a good business outcome, then great as well.
And we measure the percentage of customers that leave a review. That's actually really gone well for us. We normally get about 7% of our customers leaving us a 5-star review. We're now at around 12%. So I think it goes to show that it's helped out during this period.
Yeah, congratulations. That's great. And what sort of trends would you see in operating self-storage, mobile storage? Are you seeing any change in trends in marketing or the emphasis that you've got to provide to customers? Any long-lasting trends, or is it really just still a bit turbulent?
Do you mean in relation to COVID trends, or do you mean just generally in the market?
Just general, yeah. Any significant change like COVID will create long-lasting change.
Yeah.
Any views on how some things, like, have you found efficiencies in the business that you didn't have before, or how are you seeing longer term trends out of this?
Yeah. Well, I'll focus on COVID because there's general trends in the mobile industry that are separate to COVID. I think with COVID, the two trends that I noticed really acutely were, one, the immediacy in which someone wanted their storage organized. And so in the past, we would have had sort of a lead time of sort of a week or two before the delivery, or a few days. Whereas there seems to be a general trend, but particularly exacerbated during COVID, where we'd had these requests for bookings to take place the next day, and a lot of pressure around getting it done ASAP. And so that's a trend that I think is both a sort of macroeconomic phenomenon that's taking place, that sort of there's an expectation that everyone can do anything tomorrow. And that's linked in with the on-demand economy that we're kind of living in, that delivery economy where you just press your button on your phone and it happens straight away for you. So there's been, that's been one of them. And the other thing is generally, I do think that COVID's opened up and really showed the world that, you can do a hell of a lot from the comfort of your own home without leaving the house. And so I do think that it works well for the mobile storage industry, and that we're actually offering a delivery service as opposed to having to get in your car and drive out and get stuck in traffic. Not that there's much traffic at the moment, but anyway, that's more of a macroeconomic trend that's taking place around the general sort of storage world, I think. And like I said, working remotely this is all the hallmarks of things that have happened for a lot of people at the moment. So the working remotely scenarios worked exceptionally well for us. I think most companies would find that. So that's and the reason for storage, I think will rebalance back to the norm. So I don't think there's a major change there, to be honest. And everyone says to me, what are the opportunities longer term for new storage requirements? I can't see anything major that's going to fundamentally change that. And then there's the general mobile storage trends. The only thing I'd say, other than what I've already mentioned, is that I do believe that there is a move towards smaller storage units, so the requirements for smaller amounts of space as a general dynamic. But I think the storage guys, or the traditional storage guys such as yourself, Hans, will probably be better positioned to answer that in terms of the size of the units that you guys are building on the facilities.
Yeah, you're right. We've seen a shift over the last 2 or 3 months to a smaller average unit size. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
It's not massive, but it's there, and I agree. I think it'll be people looking for a more efficient use of the space.
Yeah.
Which leads to some good marketing opportunities in terms of volume, rather than just sort of floor area and those sorts of things. But
yeah, well, it also increases the yield if you've got smaller spaces. Sorry.
That's right. Any other comments? One thing I wouldn't mind understanding is if there's any automation that I know you guys are already into automation and got a very dynamic business in that regard. But is there any automation that you think this will it positively influence your business going forward? Certainly for traditional storage, there's going to be some change for automation for health and security concerns, which will be good for business. Any you guys?
Oh, I mean, this has been kind of one of the key foundations of our success in our business is really the investment in technology from a very early stage, and automation has been implicit in that. And so we've been really driving that fairly hard. Does COVID further, incentivize us to invest in that? I don't think really, other than the realization that people are not wanting to speak on the phone as much as they used to before. They want to get everything done online. It goes back to the general trend that we heading towards consumption. The way people consume is different to the way they've consumed in the past, where they're happy to get on the phone and have a conversation with someone and sort of go out to site to chat with someone. I think today it's this expectation that it should all be online, automated, without speaking with someone. And so that's a trend that we've been kind of aware of for a while and have continued to want to invest in that. And we continue to build that out.
Any last thoughts you'd like to share with
Last words, last thoughts. No, I feel like I've been a bit uninspiring. I'm sorry. I kind of feel like, again, there's a lot of buzz around what's happening with COVID and what does it mean for us in the industry. And for us, it's kind of steady as she goes. It doesn't really radically change our plans. We probably could be sharper and smarter with the way we're thinking about it. But I personally am of the view that things will settle back into a routine.
Look, it is a steady as she goes industry. One of the great things that we found, again, is that storage has performed well through a major shock.
Yeah.
It's immune to shocks, nor is anything, but it's continued to perform. And look, certainly, your story is inspiring in that you guys have got a business that's continued to thrive. Of course, there's some slowdown as everyone's finding, but it's a fundamentally strong and recurring income business. So it's been great that you guys have been able to adapt and to get Lindsay Lohan and Dolph Lundgren on the line. It mustn't be that boring a business at all. It must be pretty exciting if they want to dial in.
Like I said, there's a secret sauce to it. So, but yeah. And I just want to set the expectation, sorry, Hans, that I should mention it's not that the business has been thriving throughout this period. I mean, we've been, dropping boxes very slightly throughout the period. So it hasn't been growth, but it just hasn't been a write-off, I guess.
Yeah, no, I appreciate your frankness, but I guess comparatively thriving. It's I feel for so many businesses in so many parts of the world that have just had a terrible experience. So. But yeah, definitely. I understand. Like the same with us, our occupancy is slightly down, but and the occupancy that we have been able to maintain, we're really pleased with. But we've had to discount in order to achieve that. So that's business, and that's how it rolls.
Yeah.
So look, I just wanted to thank you very much for joining us, Ben. It's been great to have a chat and to see you again.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Great to see Taxiboxs there, and look forward to chatting sometime in the not too far distant future, and we can fly to Melbourne, catch up, and see how things are going in.
Cool, Hans. Thank you very much. Enjoyed it and loving the series. So thanks.
Good on you, mate. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.
Take it easy. See you, mate.
Bye.
Cheers.